Greetings, glass mosaic people. This is your tutorial to help you get started designing your glass mosaics. Here are your supplies. I chose a shadow box for this project and decided I wanted to create a nightlight. Once you have the shape and dimensions of your substrate, which is a fancy word for the surface we're building on, you can start plotting out your design. For this project, I wanted to combine a photograph of my dog with a floral background. So I first printed out a picture that was of my dog, but I had converted it to a black and white photo. You can do this on most computers. We'll have a photo editing program that can easily change a photograph from color to black and white. Also on your phones, there are applications you can do on smartphones that will do that for you as well. So I did this for my photograph of Henry, as well as a photograph of some sunflowers that I found that I converted to black and white after using cartoon sketch filter to make the lines on them a little bit more graphic. Once I had these images, I just traced the lines with another piece of paper. You can do this in a window, or if you have a light table at home, it's very useful. But I traced it to the dimensions of my substrate, so my shadow box glass. Cut out a piece of paper that would be that size and just traced my images in there, just using Henry and then adding the flowers behind him. Once my design was all sketched out, I taped it to the back of my glass. I had it all mounted in the frame while I'm creating it. So while I'm gluing my pieces down, I don't accidentally glue any pieces that will need to rest under the frame. To create my shapes, I'm using all the tools that we have in the studio. I'm using the glass cutter. The wheeled nippers are my favorite for making irregular little shapes, especially for the flowers. I used, for his nose, I created a half circle, but then I used the grinder to grind away a little notch for where his little nostrils will go. So use your tools to create the shapes that you want, especially things like his nose and his eyes. I knew I needed them to look a certain shape. I spent the majority of my time finding the perfect pieces for his face because I wanted him to look like my dog. I wanted my pieces to look like little chunky bits of fur coming off it, so I was very intentional with the shapes I was creating and which direction they were facing to create a flow that looked like his fur. And then with the other pieces, it was a lot quicker for my little flowers and then just the greens in the background. I just wanted them to be nice colors, and I chose muted colors for the flowers, that I wouldn't choose any bright colors that would overpower him and he would be the focus in the design. Once I glued all the glass pieces down, I flipped over the shadow box and I made sure to use a two-part epoxy to secure the glass backing to the inside of the shadow box. There was also a little wood insert that I secured with some two-part epoxy glue to make sure that would not shift around in the future. To make this shadow box into a night light, I used a little battery-powered twinkle light that I cut out a hole for the switch in the backing of the shadow box. I just used a utility knife and an X-Acto knife and getting an approximate measurement of the shape of the little switch. I cut out that little shape, the little square, so I could switch it on and off just without having to open up the box. I used some two-part epoxy glue to secure it because the battery pack was on the opposite side of the switch, so it was okay to keep that there. I can always change the batteries just by opening up the shadow box. And then all I did for the little lights is I secured them kind of in a concentric circle on the inside of the shadow box, just with some clear tape that can easily be moved and changed around in the future. And this twinkle light has a nice feature. It has an on and off and a timer, so I can just turn it onto the timer and it'll shut itself off later. In between constructing the back and gluing the twinkle lights, I grouted the mosaic. You can check out the grouting video on the YouTube playlist to how to grout your mosaic in detail. I assembled it all back together and switched the light on, and in the dark my little Henry glows very nicely. And that's it for this project. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with in the studio. Thanks for watching. See you soon.